Good evening, my darling night crawlers. I am Seraphine Voss, your official guide through the velvet crypt of broken hearts. Tonight's tale will sting worse than a rose's thorn. Let's carve our own legacy. If our midnight confessions move your soul, pierce that like button, whisper your guilt in the comments, and subscribe.
Rowan Vale's headlights carved two pale rivers of light down the rain-slick highway, piercing through the dark like signals lost in the abyss. The wipers struggled to keep up with the relentless downpour. Each slap of rubber against glass was a heartbeat, dragging him forward. He gripped the wheel tighter as thunder rattled the cracked rear-view mirror above him, a jagged splinter in his line of sight, a reminder he couldn't bring himself to replace. 6 months, and still he hadn't fixed it, because every time he looked at it, Mara's absence stared back. The guilt sat heavy on his chest, a passenger that buckled itself in and never left. He'd promised to protect her, and he'd failed. Then he saw her. The figure emerged at the highway's next curve, a wisp of pale skin and dark hair against the wall of rain. She stood by the roadside, drenched hair plastered to her face, one arm outstretched with a thumb raised in a silent plea. Rowan's breath hitched as the car drew closer, his chest tightening. Her eyes found his through a veil of rain. They were eyes he remembered, eyes that still haunted his nights.
Need a ride?
He slowed the car, wheels hissing on wet asphalt, and rolled the window down just enough for her voice to drift inside. She nodded, water trailing down her jaw, and slid into the passenger seat without a word. The scent of wilted roses wafted into the enclosed space, faint but unmistakable, and he caught the glint of a handkerchief poking out of her coat pocket. A handkerchief wrapped around a dying rose, the same roses he'd given Mara on her last birthday.
You came back. Thank you.
Her voice was soft, carrying a warmth that had no place in the cold storm.
Where are you headed?
The words felt hollow, like they weren't enough.
Away from here.
She said simply, her fingers brushing against the worn dashboard. Rain streaked the windshield like ghostly fingers, and her hand, a little too cold, a little too steady, hovered near his arm longer than it should have. He didn't pull away. He kept driving. The silence grew heavy, stretching between them like the shadows creeping along the roadside. Half an hour passed, the endless hiss of tires against wet pavement melding with the rhythm of his pulse. It was only when the old church ruins came into view, a jagged skeleton of stained glass and stone, that she spoke again.
Do you know the legend?
Her voice weaving through the rain. Rowan tensed, gaze flicking to her. The ruins loomed to their right, ivy clinging to the crumbled walls like black veins. Decaying rose petals scattered the steps of the open altar, pale and lifeless in the moonlight. He gripped the wheel tighter.
A bride, she continued, her voice low. She waits for her groom, even after death.
Rowan's chest burned. He remembered this place. He remembered leaving her here.
Mara.
Who said I'm Mara?
The breath left his lungs in a shaky rush. His foot hit the brake reflexively, the car jerking to a stop. The headlights illuminated the church ruins, casting fractured beams across crumbled stone.
Who are you?
She smiled then, something thin, something sharp. Her face rippled in the rearview mirror, and for the first time Rowan saw it. The fractures in her reflection didn't line up. Two faces stared back at him, one soft and familiar, the other jagged and wrong.
I am what you fear,
she whispered, leaning closer. The scent of wilted roses turned cloying, suffocating. Her smile peeled wider, morphing into something that wasn't human. And then, like smoke, she was gone. Rowan's head whipped around. The seat beside him was empty. Rain lashed against the windows, and his pulse roared louder than the storm. He was still staring at the space she'd occupied when a tap came at his window. He flinched. It was her again, but not her. Mara. The real Mara. Or an echo of her, standing beside a weathered tow truck pulled just ahead. She was soaked but solid, mismatched gold and green eyes, steady as they met his through the glass. She gestured for him to step out. Rowan's hands shook as he opened the door and stumbled into the rain.
You shouldn't have picked her up. They wear faces like masks. They lure the grieving.
She raised a small pocket mirror, letting it catch the dim glow of the car's headlights. The surface shimmered like water, then darkened, showing him what he hadn't dared to see. His own reflection, surrounded by a shadow. Her.
She feeds on guilt, on grief. She doesn't stop until you're hollow.
Why me?
Because you're still tied to this.
Mara's gaze flicked to the ruins.
She has your guilt. You have to face it.
The lines of her face softened. Even now, even after death, she pitied him. The church loomed in the distance, calling him. Without another word, Mara stepped back into the shadows, fading like a ghost. Rowan turned back to the ruins, and he walked. His footsteps echoed as he entered the broken altar. The air was thick, heavy, like stepping into a submerged world. Mirrors lined the crumbled walls, cracked and splintered, reflecting countless versions of him. In the center of the space, she waited, the hitchhiker, no longer hiding the predator beneath her borrowed face. Her wings of shadow unfurled, her fangs glinting as she curled her lips into a mocking smile.
You failed her. You left her to die.
I didn't want to. I loved her.
Love brought her here. Love brought me here. Give in. Bind yourself to me.
Rowan's hand brushed something cold on the altar, a single rose still clinging to its last breath of life. He wrapped his fingers around it, the thorns biting into his palm.
This was for her.
She faltered, just slightly.
And it still is.
The circle erupted in light, petals transforming into flame. The shadowy figure shrieked, her form shattering like glass. Rowan watches the monster disintegrate into the abyss. He walks away.
Mara, I'm sorry.
When the light faded, so did she. Rowan stumbled back to his car, the wilted rose tucked in his hand. This time, when he looked in the rear-view mirror, it was whole again. And so, perhaps, was he.
Well, my darling night crawlers, did Mara's lament haunt you as it haunts me? Tell me, what twisted ending would you weave next? A bride's revenge or lost love? If your heart still races, pierce that like button. Whisper your sins below and subscribe for more midnight confessions. Let's get up to 5K subs. Good night, my night crawlers.